On June the 6th, the landing site for the 12th was Courcelles-sur-Mer, or Mike Green, as it was named in code. The 12th headed toward the beach, firing their guns, and then stood off to let the 7th Brigade land before going to them for support. And they were the first regiment to fire in France that morning. The infantry, which they were supporting from the 7th Brigade, had moved inland.
The Canadian Army, when they went ashore on Operation Overlord in D-Day, they were assigned Juno Beach, which was a stretch of about 4 or 5 miles of beach with heavy German defenses all along it, and they knew what they're going to come up against. They had done a lot of training in preparation for an assault on Juno Beach, and Canada selected the 3rd Canadian Infantry Division to lead the Canadians as they went ashore. The division was 20,000 strong, 3 brigades of infantry, and there was an armored brigade attached to it.
He said they're too busy to think. They're too busy to be afraid. All they have to do is get on that beach, not drown when they're getting out, and meet their objective.
He used to sit at this kind of a desk we had in our living room, and I was sitting on the couch beside it. And he started talking about it. And it was one of those situations where you can see everything playing out in his mind. He's looking at me, but his eyes aren't looking at me. They're looking inside his own mind. And he's talking about how they're coming ashore and the roar of the rockets coming across overhead, the gunfire, things rattling off the outside of the gun as it's going. They're firing their rounds. And then they got to the beach, and he's on the beach. Of course, now they've got infantry in front of them, which makes things incredibly tricky. And you don't worry about hitting mines. If you're going to hit one, you're going to hit one. That's all there was to it. So they're on the beach, and he was the driver, and he's basically buttoned down in a hatch. They had a little small window to look out of, and that was it. The gun on the Priest would only traverse about 7 degrees either way, right or left of center. You couldn't really turn it that much. So if you had to change position, you had to move the whole gun carriage to turn the whole thing around to get the gun in position. And he started going, traverse, left, traverse, hold, fire! And he started getting into it, and I was sitting on the couch beside him. And I traversed, move forward, He was reliving it. He wasn't telling me a story anymore. He was reliving it. I'm thinking, I can't imagine what they were going through and what they were driving over, what was in front of them. I mean, but it had to get done. And if you've ever been over to Juno Beach and seen the casements in the bunkers, they were hitting these things with 105 millimeter howitzers, and they were putting dents in them. Like those bunkers were meant to stay there a long, long time. And it was, the fact that they made it through is incredible.
Because we asked our dad, we said to him one time, when you touched the beach in Normandy, what went through your mind? He just said, the first thing I thought about was, I'm still alive. I made it. And then they reached their objective for that day very quickly. And then we said, well, then what'd you do? He said, well, we made a pot of tea.